The story of Ishmael is recorded in the book of Genesis from chapter 16 to 21. The story also briefly talked about in Genesis chapter 25, 2 Chronicles chapter 1, Galatians chapter 4 verse 21 to 31, and Romans chapter 9 verse 7 to 9. Ishmael is known to be the father of the Arab nations. His hometown was Mamre, near Hebron, in Canaan. His half-brother was Isaac, who was birthed by Abraham and Sarah's union. Ishmael went on to become a hunter, archer, and warrior. Ishmael was the first son born to Abraham by his maidservant named Hagar. In Hebrew, Ishmael means God will hear or God hears. Some translations put it as God has hearkened, meaning that a child was gotten in fulfillment of a promise. He was named Ishmael according to the words of the angel given to Hagar. Genesis chapter 16 verse 11. And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Behold, thou art with child, and shalt bear a son, and shalt call his name Ishmael, because the Lord hath heard thy affliction. Ishmael was born out of fulfilling the promise God had made to Abraham. God made several promises to Abraham, and the first was that he would make Abraham a great nation. At the time God made this great promise to Abraham, he was without child. Genesis chapter 12 verse 2 to 3. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse them that curse thee. And in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. God had made this promise to Abraham when he was in his father's country, and had told him to leave his father's household to the land that he would show to him. Abraham obeyed God and took his wife Sarah with him and his nephew Lot, and they set out to the land of Canaan. Abraham was 75 years old when God made the promise to him. Abraham remained in the land of Canaan and stayed there for years, but remained without a child. The word of the Lord came to Abraham in a vision in Genesis chapter 15 verse 1 to 5, saying, Fear not, Abraham, I am thy shield, and thy exceeding great reward. And Abraham said, Lord God, what wilt thou give me, seeing I go childless, and the steward of my house is this Eliezer of Damascus? And Abraham said, Behold, to me thou hast given no seed, and lo, one born in my house is mine heir. And behold, the word of the Lord came unto him, saying, This shall not be thine heir, but he shall come forth out of thy own bowels, shall be thy heir. And he brought him forth abroad, and said, Look now towards the heavens, and tell the stars, if thou be able to number them. And he said unto him, So shall thy seed be. It was as though God had shown him a vision to keep Abraham's mind on the promise he made earlier to him in Genesis chapter 12 about making him a great nation. When Abraham received this vision, he believed in the Lord. Years kept passing, and still Abraham bore no child. Abraham's wife Sarah had an Egyptian maidservant named Hagar, and so she suggested to Abraham that he should have an affair with her, so that they could have a family through her. Abraham agreed, and this was 10 years after Abraham had lived in Canaan. And Sarah took a maidservant and gave her husband to be his wife. Abraham slept with Hagar, and she conceived and was with a child. The custom was a pagan custom of those around them. It allowed that a man could sleep with a servant and include their children in his household. Although it was man's way, it wasn't God's way. Abraham was trying to get the children he and his wife had wanted for several years, and so he was trying to help God out in fulfilling his promise of getting a son. The attempt of Abraham to help God led to considerable jealousy and sorrow. During the time Sarah was still barren, and at the time when Hagar was pregnant, Hagar despised and mocked Sarah for the wrong she was suffering. Abraham told Sarah to do to Hagar whatever she thought was best, and so Sarah mistreated her. Hagar ran away from her mistress, but an angel told her that she was with a child, a son whom she would bear unto Abraham, and the angel instructed her to return home. Hagar returned home, and Ishmael was born. Abraham was 86 years old when Ishmael was born. This was 11 years after he had lived in Canaan. When Abraham was 99 years old, God made another promise to him. As for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many nations. Neither shall thy name any more be called Abraham, but thy name shall be called Abraham. For a father of many nations have I made thee, and I will make thee exceeding fruitful, and I will make nations of thee, and kings shall come out of thee. God made this promise and covenant to Abraham. In Genesis chapter 17 verse 1 to 15, God instructed Abraham to circumcise every male in his household. And God told Abraham, as he has now renamed him, that he would give birth to another son, Isaac, in the time of life from that moment. But my covenant I will establish with Isaac, whom Sarah will bear to you by this time next year. In the same time of life as God has promised Abraham, Isaac was born. Abraham was 100 years old when he bore Isaac. Sarah was so happy, and she said, God has brought me laughter, and everyone who hears about this will laugh with me. Isaac means he laughs. Isaac grew and was weaned. On the day that he was weaned, Abraham held a great feast. Sarah saw that Ishmael mocked her son, and she got angry and said to Abraham, get rid of that slave woman. When he was 13 years old, at the point where Ishmael mocked her son Isaac, Sarah became angry and didn't want Ishmael to inherit the covenant made towards Abraham. Genesis 17. Abraham was greatly distressed because of this issue. He didn't want to let go of his son Ishmael. However, God told him to listen to his wife Sarah. God told him that it is through Isaac that his offsprings will be reckoned. However, God also told Abraham that he will make a great nation out of Ishmael because he is Abraham's offspring. Abraham sent off Hagar and her son, and they wandered in the desert of Beersheba. When Hagar was with child, the angel had told her that her son's hand will be against everyone, and that everyone's hand will also be against him. However, Abraham prayed for Ishmael in Genesis chapter 17, verse 18 to 20, and God promised Abraham that Ishmael would become a great nation. God reminded Abraham of this promise when he was distressed about letting his son go away. God reminded him that he would also make Ishmael great because he was his son. Abraham gave Hagar and Ishmael a supply of bread and water and sent them away. They entered the wilderness in Beersheba, and soon they ran out of water. Hagar sent off her son a distance from herself because she didn't want to witness her son's death, and wept. And God heard the voice of Hagar and sent his angel to tell Hagar, arise, lift Ishmael and hold him in thy hand, for I will make him a great nation. And God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water, and she went and filled the bottle with water and gave her son to drink. And God was with them, and he grew and dwelt in the wilderness and became an archer. And he dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took him a wife out of the land of Egypt. Ishmael went on to father 12 sons, just as Isaac's son Jacob would. Abraham died, and Ishmael helped his brother Isaac bury his father. Genesis chapter 25 verse 9. Ishmael lived on to be 137 years old. Ishmael was born in a human effort to fulfill God's promise, while Isaac was born as God's fulfillment of his promise. Galatians 4 verse 23. While God fulfilled his promise towards Ishmael and made him a great nation, God established his covenant with Isaac. God made his covenant towards Abraham clear, and he said that Ishmael wasn't to inherit Abraham's house, and that Isaac would be the seed of the covenant. Take your son, your only son, Isaac, whom you love, and go to the region of Moriah. Genesis chapter 22 verse 2 to 8.